Okay, picture this. A nation, maybe poised for an economic shift so big it could, well, completely change its standing on the world energy stage. We're talking about Jamaica today. And we're going deep on this incredible story playing out just off its coast, the Walter Morant license. Some people are even calling it the next Guyana.
Yeah, and guiding us through all this geology and the commercial side of things, our insights are straight from Paul Ryan. He's the geoscience advisor for United Oil and Gas. He's got, over 20 years in oil and gas all over the world, and importantly, about 7 years focused right here on Walter Morant.
So yeah, get ready. Our mission here is to really unpack the geology behind it, look at the discoveries that have popped up so far, and just grasp the staggering potential people are seeing here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into this. First off, to really get a handle on this, you need to appreciate just how big this area is, the Walter Morant license. It's more than 22,000 square kilometers off Jamaica's south coast. It covers two basins, right? Walton and Morant.
That's right, hence the name.
And just for context, it's bigger than Wales. I mean, it's just massive.
Absolutely, that scale is a huge part of the excitement. So United Oil and Gas, they came into the picture in 2017. Initially just as a minority partner, Tula Oil actually had the license from 2014. Then fast forward to 2020, United steps up, takes 100% operatorship. Tula decided to shift focus, but what's interesting is even when they left, their technical people still saw, real merit there, significant potential.
Right. And then there's that headline number everyone keeps mentioning about 7 billion barrels. That's the mean or mid-case prospective resource identified so far across lots of different prospects and leads. I mean, 7 billion barrels, that's huge. What could that actually mean for Jamaica?
Well, yeah, 7 billion barrels isn't just a number, right? It represents a potential economic transformation. It could really redefine Jamaica's place globally. Think about it, a country known mostly for tourism, potentially becoming a major energy exporter, and the conditions there seem pretty good for it. The fiscal terms through the petroleum sharing agreement, they're set up to be very favorable.
Favorable meaning?
Meaning, generous enough that a significant chunk of any oil money would go straight to Jamaica. It would be genuinely transformative for the country itself if it's commercially successful. And on top of that, the government's been really supportive. We've seen multiple license extensions, the latest runs until January 2028.
Okay, so that gives them another couple of years.
Exactly, another 2.5 years to keep doing the work, which right now is mostly cost-effective technical stuff, like piston coring.
Taking samples from the seabed?
Yeah, looking for oil traces directly. And seismic reprocessing, basically using new tech to squeeze more information out of the old geological data, sharpening the picture.
Okay, so with all that background, you can definitely see why the comparison to Guyana keeps coming up. Guyana's seen huge exploration success, massive economic impact. The idea that Jamaica could be on a similar path, it's definitely there.
It is. And connecting that to the geology, one of the really compelling things is how similar Jamaica looks, geologically speaking, to those successful plays in Guyana. The key thing is the age of the source rock. That's the rock that actually generates the oil. We're talking early Upper Cretaceous, Campanian-Turonian specifically.
That's a big deal.
Oh, yeah. Globally significant. It's considered like a golden age for oil generation. It's the source behind huge petroleum systems right across the Caribbean, Guyana, Suriname, sure, but also northern Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago, Colombia.
Wow. Okay, so this globally important source rock.
Yeah.
Have they actually found rock of that specific age in Jamaica?
Yes, exactly. That specific source rock has been identified in Jamaica, which really boosts the confidence, makes it feel part of that bigger regional story.
Yeah.
Now, Paul Ryan laid out these 4 essential things you absolutely need for oil and gas exploration to work. You need the source rock, obviously generates the oil, buried deep enough to cook and let the oil migrate out. Then you need a reservoir. That's rock with enough empty space, porosity, to actually hold the oil or gas. After that, you need a seal. That's like a cap rock, impermeable, stops the oil just leaking away.
Like a lid.
Pretty much. And finally, the trap. That's the geological shape, the structure that holds everything together in one place.
Okay, source, reservoir, seal, trap. Non-negotiable. How does the Walter Morant license stack up against those 4?
Well, the key thing isn't just that the elements might be there. It's that we see strong evidence for all 4, working together, coexisting in the right way across many of the prospects they've identified. That coexistence is what really starts to de-risk things. It moves it away from just, hopeful speculation towards something much more solid, backed by data.
But how do you really build that confidence? I mean, geology is one thing, but finding actual oil, sometimes the clues come from unexpected places, right? Like that story from 2016. Tula was running seismic, and local fishermen came over.
That's the one. Yeah, they were curious, asked the seismic crew what they were doing out there. Crew explains, we're looking for oil and gas. And the fishermen, incredibly, just offered to point out some oil for them.
Seriously?
Yeah. So they sent out a smaller boat, an ancillary vessel with the fishermen, over to an area east of Pedro Bank.
Did they find anything?
They did. They found slicks on the water, and crucially, they sampled them. Analysis confirmed it wasn't just like diesel spill from a boat. It was actual thermally derived crude oil seeping up from below.
Wow. Real world proof.
Exactly. Direct evidence of an active petroleum system doing its thing down there. That kind of real world clue is powerful. So moving from that to specific drill targets, the teams mapped out more than 40 prospects and leads across the license. And what's really significant is that 21 of those targets look like they could hold 100 million barrels or more on a mean or mid-case estimate.
And 100 million is sort of the magic number.
Our analysis shows that size would likely be commercially viable as a standalone project. That's a key threshold economically.
40 targets, 21 potentially commercial.
Yeah.
That's a lot to choose from. So which ones are really at the top of the list, the most high-graded or mature?
Right now, the Colibri prospect is definitely considered the most mature. It's pretty much drill ready. It's estimated to hold around 400 million barrels, prospective resource. Remember, prospective means potential, undiscovered. But Colibri has really good 3D seismic data over it.
Like a detailed underground map.
Exactly, like a CT scan versus just an X-ray. Then there's Thunderbolt, that one's even bigger, maybe 600 million barrels over in the Morant Basin. And there are others like Moonraker, Moneypenny, also look substantial, just maybe with less detailed seismic coverage right now.
And if they drilled, say, Colibri, and it was successful, that would have implications beyond just that one prospect, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. A success at Colibri, especially given how well understood it is thanks to the 3D data, would massively de-risk the whole play. It would significantly increase the perceived chance of success for all the other prospects on the license, make the whole thing much more attractive.
This whole process really comes down to what you mentioned earlier, de-risking, reducing the uncertainty, the geological risk. And that takes serious investment, right? It's not cheap. Let's talk about the money that's already gone into this de-risking effort.
Yeah, a lot has been invested already. Around 40 million US dollars spent on the license to date. And that goes back, to Tula's time, 2014 to 2017. They shot 2 big 2D seismic surveys that helped identify the general areas of interest, the initial prospectivity. Then, after United farmed in 2017, they commissioned that crucial 3D seismic survey in 2018.
The one focused on Colibri and a couple of others.
That's the one, Colibri, Streamertail, Boreal. And that 3D data, it was a game changer for understanding the details, the structure. That's really why Colibri is seen as the most mature, the most de-risked prospect now.
Okay, so $40 million, years of seismic work, identifying grow-ready targets. What's the next step now to actually make this happen commercially? I hear the term data room phase. What actually goes on in a data room?
Right, so the data room is where you invite other companies, potential partners, could be oil majors, could be smaller independents, to come and look at everything you've got. It starts with signing an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, keeps everything confidential.
Standard procedure.
Yeah. Then they typically get a detailed presentation from management, laying out the whole technical case, why we think it works. After that, they get access to what's called a virtual data room, a VDR. That's basically a secure online portal with all the raw data seismic reports, interpretations, everything they need to do their own analysis, their own due diligence.
And how's that going? Are companies seeing what you're seeing?
Well, so far, the feedback's been really positive. The level of technical agreement, between our interpretation and what these external teams are seeing, it's been notably high, which is encouraging.
That is a strong signal. High technical agreement. What is it specifically, do you think, about the data or maybe Paul Ryan's team's interpretation that's clicking so well with these other technical experts? What gives them that confidence?
I think it really boils down to how robust the geological model looks now, especially with that 3D seismic, how clearly you can see those 4 key elements: source, reservoir, seal, and trap fitting together. Plus, you add in the oil seeps providing real-world evidence, the sheer scale we talked about, and those favorable fiscal terms. It combines to make a pretty compelling package for companies used to evaluating these kinds of opportunities. So, immediate next steps. Well, We're continuing those detailed discussions with the companies already in the data room. They're doing their homework technically and commercially. At the same time, we're pushing ahead with our own technical work. Getting permits for that piston coring is underway, talking to survey companies.
Keeping the momentum going.
Exactly. The ultimate aim here is to farm out the project. That means bringing in a partner, often a larger company with deep pockets, who'll fund the next stage, usually in return for a big slice of the ownership and, sharing the risk. And the goal of that next stage, get a well drilled. That's the ultimate test, to finally confirm what all the data suggests is down there, to prove the resource.
So this deep dive into Walden Moran really paints a picture of, well, immense potential, doesn't it? Something that could genuinely reshape Jamaica's future. It's a fascinating story of careful, step-by-step de-risking, building the case from geology to clues like those oil seeps, right up to drill-ready targets, all guided by that expert insight from Paul Ryan.
Yeah, and that vision actually proving up these resources with a successful well, that's the really exciting part now. It's about turning all that potential into, tangible value, real opportunity for Jamaica. It's the culmination of years of detailed geological groundwork.
So as you think about this, just consider, how could a discovery of this scale really change a nation? Not just the economy through energy exports, but what else? What ripple effects might it create for Jamaica's infrastructure, maybe education, its influence on the world stage? What new possibilities open up when something like this happens?